Have you ever met someone who lights up every room, yet deep inside, feels completely unseen? Or maybe, that person is you. Here's a shocking truth. Many people who seem the most confident, the most admired, are secretly carrying invisible wounds. They're not showing the world who they really are. They're performing a version of themselves they think people want to see. Sounds familiar? Today, we're diving deep into the heart of Leo energy. But not just the sunshine and confidence you've heard before. I'm talking about the hidden fears, the emotional walls, and the fragile heart behind the roar. This isn't just about astrology. It's about understanding human nature, and maybe understanding yourself a little better. So, why do we crave admiration? Why do we fear being ordinary? And how can the Leo within all of us learn to shine for real, not for applause? If these questions stir something inside you, stay with me. Because what you'll discover in this video might just change how you see yourself and the people around you. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video if it resonates, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Together, let's uncover the truths hiding behind the spotlight. Are you ready? Let's begin. Think about someone you know who always seems to shine. The person who walks into a room and suddenly, everyone notices. They tell the best stories. They laugh the loudest. They seem so sure of themselves. But, have you ever wondered what's happening behind that confident smile? The truth is, many of us are carrying an invisible story. A story we don't share. Especially those who look like they have it all together. Like the Leo personality, the symbol of confidence, leadership, and joy. But behind that image, behind the roar, there's often a quiet fear. It's the fear of being unseen. Many Leos, and people with strong Leo energy, chase recognition. They crave being special. They need to feel irreplaceable. But this isn't just about ego. It's about a deep, hidden wound. A subconscious struggle between who they really are and the version of themselves they think the world wants. Every compliment, every applause, becomes a small reassurance. A momentary relief from that haunting question, am I enough without the spotlight? You've probably felt this too. Maybe at work, where you try to impress your boss to feel valued. Or in relationships, where you become the fun person, always entertaining, but never truly seen for your quiet, vulnerable self. Leo energy is like that. Outwardly powerful. Inwardly fragile. Now, imagine this, every time you express yourself, you're faced with a choice. Are you speaking from authenticity? Or are you performing for approval? It's not always easy to tell. Because the line between self-expression and performance is razor thin. Especially when applause feels so good. Think about a singer on stage. At first, they sing because they love music. But over time, they start singing for the audience's reaction. The joy shifts from within to what comes from outside. That's the trap many Leos fall into. And maybe you've been there too. When we're young, we all crave approval. We want our parents, our teachers, our friends to notice us, to say we're doing great. For Leos, this craving can follow them into adulthood. Hidden beneath their confident image. They work hard to be recognized. To feel irreplaceable. But deep inside, there's often a fear, what if no one's watching? What if no one cares? This fear can shape everything. From the way they lead to the way they love. Let me share a real-life example. I once knew someone who seemed unstoppable. Charismatic, talented. Loved by everyone. But one night, over coffee, he confessed something I didn't expect. He said, "I don't know who I am when no one's watching me." His whole identity had become a performance. And the applause he craved felt like a prison. This is the paradox of Leo energy. They're the sun of the zodiac, radiating warmth. But sometimes, the sun burns itself out trying to shine for everyone else. And it doesn't stop there. Leo's loyalty, something people often admire, can also be a sign of this inner struggle. On the surface, loyalty seems noble. Being there for your friends. Standing by your partner. But look deeper, and you may find something else. A hidden fear of being abandoned. You see, when someone is terrified of being left alone, they often cling tightly to relationships. Not because they feel safe, but because they're scared of being forgotten. Leo's loyalty sometimes works like this. It's not always about love. Sometimes, it's about fear. But how can you recognize this in yourself? Ask yourself, are you loyal because you choose to be? Or because you're afraid to lose someone's approval? This difference matters. Because fear-based loyalty leads to emotional exhaustion. You become the person who's always giving. Always showing up. Even when your own heart feels empty. And when people see you, they think you're strong. But inside, you're lonely. This brings us to one of the biggest challenges hidden within Leo energy, wearing joy as a mask. You might know someone like this. Always smiling. Always cracking jokes. The life of the party. But when the party ends, they go home and feel empty. That's the hidden storm behind Leo's bright exterior. People with strong Leo traits often learn from a young age that being cheerful keeps them safe. It earns love. So, they become experts at hiding sadness behind laughter. They radiate joy, not because they're happy, but because it's their way of protecting their hearts. Think of a clown. Smiling on the outside. Crying on the inside. It sounds sad. But it's real. Maybe you've done this too. Pushed through pain with a smile. Hid your tears because you thought no one would understand. Or worse, you feared people would stop loving you if they saw the real you. But here's the truth, vulnerability isn't weakness. And this is where Leo's journey becomes powerful. At the heart of Leo energy is the heart itself. Leos are ruled by the heart chakra, the energy center of love, courage, and connection. But modern life often teaches us to guard our hearts. To only show the shiny parts of ourselves. Yet, the bravest thing a Leo can do is to be vulnerable. To say, I'm not okay. To admit, I feel alone. Because when they do that, they become stronger. Not weaker. Opening your heart isn't about pleasing others. It's about allowing yourself to be real. When you drop the performance and stand in your truth, you find freedom. And that's the ultimate lesson Leo teaches us. Not to shine for others, but to shine for yourself. Not to seek approval, but to offer yourself acceptance. So, if you've ever felt like you're living a performance, if you've ever wondered whether people love you for who you are, or for the role you play, I invite you to pause, breathe, and ask yourself a simple question. Who am I when no one's watching? The answer to that question might lead you back to your heart. And in the next part of this video, we'll explore how this inner journey transforms Leo energy from fragile to fearless. From seeking attention to living authentically. But for now, remember this, your worth was never meant to be measured by applause. But what happens when that craving for admiration starts shaping your emotions in ways you don't even notice? When you're constantly chasing the spotlight, your inner world begins to change. You start confusing happiness with applause. You smile when people are watching, but deep inside, you're exhausted. You've been giving so much of yourself, but not to nurture your soul. You've been giving just to feel seen. Think of those moments when you're surrounded by people, yet you feel completely alone. It's a strange kind of loneliness. Because logically, you know you're not isolated. People like you. They admire you. But it doesn't touch the emptiness inside. That's Leo's hidden struggle. Giving, loving, performing, not because it's authentic, but because you're afraid to stop. This fear can drive Leo energy into cycles of burnout. You push yourself to keep being the best, to keep shining, to keep showing up for others. Until one day, you have nothing left to give. And when that day comes, you might feel confused. Why do I feel so empty when I've always been the strong one? Why do I feel lost when I've always led the way for others? It's not just physical exhaustion. It's emotional exhaustion. You've been running from your own vulnerability. You've been afraid to stop and rest, because in the silence, you'd have to face yourself. And that's the part many people avoid. But here's the truth, allowing yourself to pause doesn't make you weak. Admitting you're tired doesn't make you unlovable. It makes you real. And realness is where healing begins. Let's think about relationships now. Leo energy often manifests as loyalty. People with strong Leo traits are known for standing by their friends, their partners, their family. On the surface, this seems beautiful. And often, it is. But beneath that loyalty, there can sometimes be a hidden pattern. One that many people don't see. It's the fear of abandonment. You see, loyalty driven by love is healthy. It's a choice, made from a full heart. But loyalty driven by fear? That's something else entirely. When someone stays in a relationship, not because they feel safe, but because they're terrified of being alone, that's not love. That's survival. And here's where it gets complicated. People who carry Leo energy may not even realize this. They believe they're loyal because it's who they are. But if you dig deeper, you might discover that their loyalty is a shield. A way to protect themselves from the pain of rejection. Because being abandoned would mean facing their deepest fear, the fear that without constant attention, they're not enough. This is why so many people struggle in friendships and romantic relationships. They give and give, hoping their loyalty will make them irreplaceable. But the more they give from fear, the more invisible they feel. It's a paradox. The very thing they hope will keep them safe becomes the thing that drains their soul. So ask yourself, when you show up for people, when you give your love, your time, your energy, is it because your heart is full? Or because you're afraid of losing their approval? Learning to recognize the difference can change your life. But there's another layer to this story. Think about joy. Pure, authentic joy. When was the last time you felt it, without needing someone else to notice? For Leo energy, joy often becomes a performance. It's not that they're pretending. It's that they've learned to associate happiness with attention. Over time, the two get tangled. Until the person can't tell where real joy ends, and the performance begins. I knew someone who lived like this for years. Always smiling, always the center of attention. People loved being around her. But one night, she admitted to me that her laughter felt hollow. She said, "I laugh because people expect it. But most days, I don't even know why I'm laughing anymore." That's the danger of wearing joy as a mask. When you use happiness to hide your sadness, you're not healing. You're just hiding. And hiding always leads to loneliness. But healing? Healing begins when you let yourself be seen. Not just your smile. Not just your strength. But your tears. Your fears. Your raw, honest self. This is the deeper lesson of Leo energy. The realization that true connection doesn't come from always being the happy one. It comes from being human. From letting people see your struggles, your quiet moments, your imperfections. Because when you show those parts of yourself, you give others permission to do the same. And that's when real love appears. Not the love you earn by performing, but the love you receive simply by existing. Now, there's one more hidden truth we need to explore. Many people believe vulnerability makes them weak. But Leo energy shows us something different. Vulnerability is the core of real strength. Why? Because opening your heart, admitting you're scared, sharing your truth, all require courage. It's easy to wear a mask. It's easy to pretend. But showing your raw, unfiltered self? That's brave. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are, you respect them not because they're perfect, but because they're honest. Because they're real. So, if you've been hiding your pain behind a smile, if you've been loyal out of fear, not love, if you've been shining for others but feeling empty inside, this is your sign. Your sign to stop performing. Your sign to come home to yourself. Your sign to remember, you are enough, even in silence. And the journey we're on together doesn't end here. Because in the next part of this video, we're going to uncover the hidden patterns of seeking approval, the addictive need for validation, and how Leo energy can help us rewrite the stories we tell ourselves. But the last 3 truths? They're the ones that might surprise you the most. Or even challenge everything you thought you knew. Stay with me. Let's go even deeper now. Think about that feeling when you share a part of yourself and someone claps, smiles, says well done. For a moment, you feel alive. Important. Like you matter. But what happens when that moment fades? You want more. You need more. This is where the trap begins. Leo energy, at its core, is about creation and expression. But when that expression starts depending on applause, it slowly stops being real. It becomes performance. Have you ever caught yourself telling a story just because you know it'll get a reaction? Not because you wanted to share, but because you wanted to be liked? That's what happens when your need for validation takes over your authentic voice. It's like building a house, but instead of bricks, you're stacking compliments. And compliments fade. They're not stable. They can't hold you up. The challenge here is subtle. Because creating, performing, expressing, they all feel so natural. Especially for people with Leo energy. But there's a moment where passion turns into pressure. You stop creating because you love it. You start creating because you're afraid of what happens if you stop. And that's where burnout begins, not just in your work, but in your soul. I knew a friend who used to write songs. At first, it was pure joy. But once she got praise, something shifted. She began writing songs for her audience, not herself. One day, she said to me, "I don't know if I love music anymore. I only love the applause." That moment broke her heart. Because she realized, she wasn't singing for herself anymore. She was singing to survive. This is the danger of creating for approval. You lose your voice without even realizing it. Now, let's think about admiration itself. Many people believe admiration is a gift. Something to be proud of. And sometimes, it is. But there's a question we need to ask. Is admiration nourishing you, or draining you? Imagine a sunflower. It turns toward the sun to grow. But if that sun moves too fast, if it shifts constantly, the sunflower becomes confused. It can't find its steady light. Leo energy is similar. People with this energy often seek admiration like sunlight. But what if admiration becomes addictive? What if you need it just to feel okay? That's not nourishment anymore. That's dependency. And dependency can quietly control your life. You might start doing things you don't love, saying things you don't believe, becoming someone you're not, just to keep the praise coming. I've seen people change their entire personalities for this. They shift their style, their opinions, even their values, all to stay liked. But the more you chase admiration, the more fragile you become. Because every compliment feels good, but every silence feels terrifying. So ask yourself, are you turning toward admiration because it feeds your soul? Or because you're afraid of what happens if it stops? That's a hard question. But answering it can set you free. Let's move to something even more personal. The way you give. Leo energy is naturally generous. People with this energy love to help. They love to give gifts, attention, love. But here's something no one tells you. Sometimes, giving becomes a transaction. It sounds harsh, but it's true. If you're giving love because you hope someone will stay, that's not generosity. That's bargaining. That's trying to buy security with affection. And most of us do this without realizing it. I've met people who give everything to their partner. Time, energy, money, emotional support. On the outside, it looks like pure devotion. But when I ask why, they pause. Then quietly admit, because if I don't, they might leave. That's not love. That's fear dressed as love. Leo energy often falls into this pattern. Because deep inside, they fear rejection. So they keep giving, thinking if I give enough, they'll never leave. But the problem is, no amount of giving can guarantee love. And when love becomes a transaction, both people lose. The giver feels exhausted. The receiver feels trapped. The lesson here is gentle, but important. Give because your heart is full, not because you're afraid of being empty. Finally, let's talk about storytelling. Leo energy is about owning your story. But how often are you telling your story for approval? Not truth? It's easy to shape your narrative to be liked. To share the polished version. To hide the messy parts. But here's the danger. The more you edit your story to please others, the more disconnected you become from yourself. You might find yourself saying things that sound good, but don't feel true. You might even start believing your own performance. Owning your narrative means telling your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it doesn't get applause. Because that's where freedom lives. I remember speaking to someone who always told the same story about his life. How he overcame everything. How he succeeded. People loved hearing it. But one day, he said to me, I don't feel connected to that story anymore. It's not false, but it's not the whole truth. That's when I realized, sometimes the stories we're most proud of are the ones that trap us. So, ask yourself, are you telling your story to be understood? Or to be admired? Only one of those will set your soul free. And as we move forward, remember this, the need for admiration, for approval, for love, is human. It's not wrong. But when it starts shaping your emotions, your choices, your story, it's time to pause. Because the final 3 insights we're about to explore will take you to the heart of Leo's deepest paradox. The shadows that hold their brightest lessons. And perhaps, the truths that will change how you see yourself forever. Let's continue. And now, let's explore something even more personal. Have you ever felt like you were working so hard to be special? That you forgot how to simply belong? Leo energy often tells us we need to stand out. To be different. To prove we're unique. But here's the paradox. The more you focus on being special, the more isolated you can feel. Because when you're constantly trying to be noticed, you stop feeling connected. Imagine someone in a crowded room, trying to get everyone's attention. Waving. Smiling. Performing. They're surrounded by people, yet feel completely alone. Why? Because what they're craving isn't attention. It's belonging. And belonging doesn't come from being admired. It comes from being accepted, without having to try. This is the quiet sadness that many people with Leo energy carry. They've been told they're meant to shine, so they believe they must always be impressive. But in chasing that special feeling, they often lose the simple joy of being part of something. A family. A friendship. A moment where no one's watching, and yet, you feel loved. I once spoke with a woman who seemed to have it all. She was successful, admired, constantly praised. But when I asked her when she last felt deeply connected to someone, she went silent. Then she whispered, I don't remember. Her whole life had become about standing out. And in the process, she forgot how to simply be. This is where we need to pause. Because there's a lesson here. You don't need to be extraordinary to deserve love. You don't need to be impressive to belong. Sometimes, your most human, ordinary moments are the ones that make people love you the most. And Leo energy, when it's healed, understands this. It teaches us that real strength is not about being untouchable. It's about letting yourself be touched. Now, let's talk about generosity. Leo energy is known for giving. But here's something we rarely admit. Sometimes, we give love as a way to buy acceptance. Think about that. Are you giving your time, your energy, your heart, because you want to? Or because you're hoping people won't leave? This is hard to admit. But it's honest. I've met people who always give. They're the friend who's always there. The partner who sacrifices everything. But when you look closer, you realize they're giving from fear. They're scared that if they stop giving, they'll be forgotten. This is where generosity becomes transactional. It's not real love anymore. It's survival. And the more you give from fear, the more empty you feel. I once knew someone who spent years doing everything for others. She'd drive people everywhere. Cook for them. Listen to their problems. But one day, she broke down. She said, "I keep giving, but no one ever stays." That's when I realized. She wasn't giving from love. She was giving because she believed love had to be earned. But it doesn't. You don't have to buy love. You don't have to prove your worth. And the people who deserve your heart won't need you to exhaust yourself to keep them. This brings us to something deeper. The stories we tell about ourselves. Leo energy loves stories. People with this energy often craft a narrative about who they are. But here's the danger. Sometimes, that narrative isn't real. It's a performance. You start telling people the version of your life that sounds good. That gets approval. That earns respect. But over time, you start believing your own performance. You become trapped inside a story you created. I've seen this happen so many times. People who say they're happy, but aren't. People who say they're strong, but cry in silence. People who tell everyone they're fine, because that's the story that gets applause. But owning your story means telling the truth. Even the messy parts. Even the parts that don't impress anyone. Real freedom begins when you stop performing and start sharing. So here's my gentle question for you. Are you telling your story to connect? Or to be admired? Only one of those will heal you. And now, let's move to something few people talk about. The burnout of overperformance. When you've spent years shining for others, you reach a point where your soul feels tired. Not your body. Your soul. You wake up, and life feels heavy. You wonder why you're doing everything you're doing. You question who you are without the praise. This is what happens when Leo energy burns itself out. The sun is powerful. But even the sun needs to set sometimes. Even the sun needs rest. And yet, people who carry this energy often don't give themselves permission to pause. They're afraid that if they stop performing, they'll disappear. But that's not true. You're not your performance. You're not your achievements. You're not the applause you receive. You're enough, simply because you exist. So if you're feeling exhausted from shining for everyone else, maybe it's time to shine for yourself. Maybe it's time to stop performing and start healing. And as we move toward the final part of this journey, remember this. What you've heard so far is only the beginning. Because the last 3 truths we'll explore hold the deepest secrets of Leo energy. Secrets about inner critics, hidden shadows, and the paradox of true strength. Secrets that might just change the way you see not only Leos, but yourself. Stay with me. What comes next will be the most honest and powerful part of this entire journey. And now, we reach perhaps the deepest paradox of Leo energy. something people rarely speak about. The desire to inspire, to motivate, to uplift. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Leos are often called the leaders of the zodiac. They're the ones people look to for strength, for encouragement. But what if I told you that behind that inspiring voice is someone quietly wishing to be saved? Think about it. People who always motivate others often carry a secret weight. They lift everyone around them because they hope someone, someday, will lift them. Their confidence becomes their mask. Their advice becomes their protection. And their strength hides their deepest longing. I remember a friend who always gave advice. She had the answers for everyone. People saw her as unshakable. But one night, she said softly, "I help others because I'm scared no one knows how to help me." That's the hidden story many Leos carry. They inspire others to silence their own inner critic. They shine for the world while feeling lost inside. It's not weakness. It's human. Sometimes we teach what we most need to learn. Sometimes we give what we're secretly searching for. And Leo energy reflects that truth with every heartbeat. Now, let's talk about the final lesson. The one that brings everything together. Leo is the sun. A symbol of light. Of brilliance. But here's what most people forget. Light creates shadows. Every time you shine, your shadows grow. And the more you avoid those shadows, the more they control you. Many Leos love to focus on their talents, their successes, their strengths. And that's beautiful. But ignoring your fears, your insecurities, your broken parts, doesn't make them disappear. It makes them louder. Louder, in silence. The true mastery of Leo energy is not about shining brighter. It's about turning inward. It's about using your light to face your shadows, to meet your fears, to hold your pain. Because only when you embrace both your brilliance and your brokenness, do you become whole. Think of the people you admire most. Are they perfect? Or are they honest about their imperfections? Are they flawless? Or are they real? That's what Leo teaches at its highest level. Not to perform. Not to seek. But to integrate. To be both sunshine and the night that follows. Because both are part of you. And now, we arrive at the end of this journey together. But maybe, it's just the beginning for you. If you've ever felt like you're performing your way through life, if you've ever feared being unseen, if you've ever shined for others but felt invisible to yourself, I hope today's words found you. And if they did, know this. You're not alone. Every applause you chased, every smile you forced, every time you gave from fear instead of love, it's okay. Because now, you see it. And once you see it, you can choose something new. You can choose to shine, not for approval, but for yourself. You can choose to love, not as a transaction, but as a truth. You can choose to rest. To pause. To be. You're allowed to be human. And you're still enough. If this video felt like a mirror for your heart, take a moment to breathe. Let the words settle. And when you're ready, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If you saw yourself in this video, or thought of someone who might need these words, please share this message with them. And if you're ready for more journeys like this, about astrology, psychology, and the stories we carry inside, subscribe to this channel. There's so much more waiting for you. What we explored today is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. In the next videos, we'll dive even deeper into the hidden patterns shaping our lives. Until then, remember, you are more than your performance. You are more than your applause. You are a story, still unfolding. And that is beautiful. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next video.